We shall now turn to the oratrice mécanique d'analyse cardinale to... According to the judgment of the oratrice mécanique d'analyse...
Well, what's wrong?
No, the oratrice also
Isn't that correct?
However, the exact wording of the verdict to be punished via...
That's actually one of the available sentences?
The one and only time the death sentence has been handed out at the court. And it's been given to the very...
Farina's been sentenced to death by the oratrice? We just wanted to use...
This outcome is indeed quite strange. According to Fontaine's current... Is this sentence really appropriate for the...
Yeah! Even Fauché wasn't sentenced to death by the oratrice. You know, the real evil mastermind behind the serial...
Indeed. Not only is Farina's sentence overly excessive, the very point of our trial today, but now, the oratrice seems to have deliberately invoked the title of the Hydra.
Excuse me, if I may interrupt. Is the trial still going?
Fremine! Oh, you finally made it.
Mm-hmm. Any mission Father assigns to...
Is that the first prophecy slate? Huh. So the knave privately arranged for Fremine to try...
I looked everywhere and finally found it at the bottom of the sea. But has the trial already concluded? Then... doesn't that mean I've come too late?
Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Fremine. Please allow me to review the record. Traveler, I believe that you have already seen the other existing slates.
Huh? So what do you see?
I believe I've now made sense of the Hydro Archon's crime. It has to do with...
Huh? Isn't the Hydro Archon just guilty of deceiving her people? Oh, wait, no, that's Farina, and we've already proven that she's not the Hydro Archon. So when you say Hydro Archon, do you mean the real Hydro Archon we've been kind of...
In truth, everything that you've encountered in Fontaine up until this point can... However, I'm uncertain as to how much sense they currently make to you.
Okay, let's try to recall the contents of the other three... The first stone slate describes what you just said. It seems to show the previous Hydro Archon using her divine power, and then the Oceanids... Does that mean that Fontanians are transformed Oceanids? Oh, Paimon wasn't expecting that. The second stone slate shows Celestia floating in the sky, and the Hydro Archon and her people worshipping it together. But this must be the point when the Hydro Archon and the Fontanians were branded with their original sin. Does this mean that... The third slate shows the Hydro Archon seeking into the sea surrounded by... That reminds Paimon, didn't we also watch that? Well, the fourth slate is the prophecy the Fontanians have been talking about. People dissolving into the sea, the Hydro... We didn't believe that such a crazy disaster could happen at first, did we? But after...
We know from the case of the serial disappearances of young women that Fontanians can be... And the first stone slate tells us that long ago, the Hydro Archon used her power to turn This might be the reason that Fontanians can dissolve. It's not as simple as falling into the sea. When Navia fell into the sea, The stone slates show the people gathered around the Hydro Arc. Perhaps what is about to take place, the true sin of the Hydro Archon that Nervil, and the original sin cast down on the people of Fontaine by. The prophecy from the stone slates found its way into society, but the fortress of Meropide was nearly flooded with primordial seawater, which we know can cause Fontainians to dissolve. It seems if we hadn't.
They'll dissolve into the primordial sea but won't cease to exist. Their essence will flow in the sea. The Hydro Archon was sentenced to death in court, shocking everyone present. Perhaps this means that her sin was. Navia fell into the water inside those ruins, and she nearly dissolved. She was surrounded by the people of Poisson in a court within her. The eruption of the primordial sea at the fortress of Meropide was the surest sign that the prophecy was. The stone slate's contents can all be verified. It now, so that's how you can make but then it feels like we're going to have to share some truth.
Let's hear them.
Incredible. We're not real humans.
All Fontainians were originally created by the late previous Hydro Archon, with Oceanids as their basis. The evidence for that can be found in how only Fontainians could dissolve in primordial seawater, and how all the girls Vacher dissolved were also turned into Oceanids. Oh, and according to Navia, when she was about to get dissolved, she also saw everyone gathered around for a trial, all of them in the shape of Oceanids.
Indeed.
Yeah, and it follows from the content of the first slate that she probably angered Celestia by creating humans without prior permission. That could also explain why the Oratrice judged the Hydro Archon to be guilty. It's to account for that ancient sin.
The Hydro Archon's true sin was creating.
And yet, after many hundreds of years, the Hydro Archon's creations have turned around to try to judge the Archon within the.
Yeah, isn't the image here just like when Navia fell into the sea? So wouldn't it be trying to show the image of the Hydro Archon also falling into the sea once the prophecy has been fulfilled in the fourth slate? In the end, the people will all be dissolved into the waters, and only the Hydro Archon will remain weeping on her throne. Only then will the sins of the people of Fontaine be washed away. Did Paimon get all that right?
You've made some keen deductions. I must say, given how much you still don't. However, while you were able to decode all the information on the slates, they've also been etched with it. When we were at the ruins, I tried to decipher the hidden information recorded in the slates. But now that the slate collection is complete, I shall make another attempt to decipher the narrative recorded within. I believe I should share this truth not only with you, but with all the people of Fontaine. Your hypotheses regarding the origin of Fontainians and the sin of the Hydro. In the Fontaine of old, the previous Hydro Archon sensed the yearning of her Oceanid familiars for life on land. The Oceanids were enamored with the beauty and romanticism of human beings, and wishing to have those experiences for themselves, expressed to the Hydro Archon their desire to become of a similar kind. However, even though water as an element is intricately linked with the power of life, the Hydro Archon as one of the seven did not want to give in, She eventually found a way to create permanent humanoid bodies for her familiars by appropriating the power of this planet's She poured primordial seawater into the Oceanids' blood vessels, creating But if Fontanians were to ever come into direct contact with water from the primordial sea, the power within their bodies would escape these artificial restraints and return to the sea. As a result, their forms would collapse, and they would be reverted to their original. Of course, the Hydro Archon never received permission from the heavenly principles to create a new human race, and thus, the Hydro Archon and all of her creations came to shoulder the original sin of appropriating the power of the primordial sea. That is the true history of how the people of
So we were all Oceanids before we turned into human beings?
That's way too much information for me. I think I'm just going to pretend that I never heard a single thing. Wait, but if that's the truth, we can't let the Hydro Archon be sentenced to death. After all, her only sin was creating us.
This really might be too much information for your regular Fontanian.
Alas, your hypothesis regarding the third and fourth stone slates was inaccurate. The slates a key point of the visual on the third slate is how all the individuals depicted in the water are humans rather than Oceanids. They have not been dissolved, which implies that the water depicted in this slate is not water from. The nation of Fontaine is the nation of Hydro, as well as the nation of Trials and Justice. Instead of being the literal element, the water in the scene symbolizes judgment and justice. You may also recall Navia's experience. When she fell into the sea, her consciousness was surrounded by that of many others who intended to hold a trial to determine her fate. Therefore, the meaning that the people of Fontaine shall try the Hydro Archon at the court of. Yes, it refers to our present situation.
I think I'm following now. So, what you're saying is, in truth, everything we've done has happened exactly as the prophecy foretold.
What should we do?
Huh. No matter what, the prophecy will be fulfilled.
If that's the case, does that mean the scene in the fourth slate will—
Traveler, I would like to point out another small fallacy about the fourth slate. You probably thought that the eruption of primordial seawater beneath the fortress of Meripedes. However, I believe that rather than being a sure sign, that eruption could in fact only be a. As for the root cause of the catastrophe, I believe you've already encountered it once before.